What up, world? It's Festive Reverb, chilling at Narwhal Studios here in Chicago with some gear from Sonicware. And this jam that you just heard me playing is all from the Sonicware gear that you see here on this table. I'm happy to announce that this plus more is available now at the Sonicware Reverb shop. Honestly, each one of these are so affordable that they're worth trying out, seeing if they fit within your workflow. You could get every one of these for well under $500, especially the Liven series. I think these are only like $240. So let's just jump into a little bit of what you heard. I had some breaks coming from the Lo-Fi 12 Liven, with some drums coming from the Bass and Beats Liven, with a sample from the SmplTrek, going into the Texture Lab granular effects processor. I had it in effects mode, and I just combined all that together in a little jam. But let's actually talk about some of the specifics of each unit. I'm actually really digging this Liven series. It's definitely a series that's like a throwback and homage to the old Korg Electrives, which is something I really dig. And plus, y'all know I'm a fan of Grooveboxes, so I was excited to really get my hands on these, and I was really excited by the portability of all these. I know I got a couple of them plugged up, but you could run every one of these units on 6 AA batteries. So you could take it with you on the go. Whenever inspiration strikes, you could pick one of these up, start grooving away, plug it up to the studio, and finish the track. But let's start with the Lo-Fi 12. This is a sampler, and it's a sampler that's a homage to like 80s samplers, like the Kai S950, and a lot of those samplers from that era where you had very limited sample time. This is a brand new sampler with very limited sampling time. You have 12-bit and an optional 16-bit recording, which will decrease the sample time, but at 12-bit, your max sample time is only 4 seconds. And that sounds pretty limiting, but with limitations comes inspiration. You could use this to play as a synth. You could obviously load up kick drums and play them chromatically, but you could also go into instruments here. So you could obviously play this as a synth. You could sample synths. You could sample single cycle waveforms. You could play it polyphonically as well. There's actually a few different modes for each sample that you load in. But what I like to do, and what I've been having fun doing, is actually sampling some drum breaks in here. You only get 4 seconds max sample time, but with that, you could still put in lots of drum and bass drum breaks, or just load in some drum breaks and actually chop it up and take advantage of the fact that you only have a 4-track sequencer on here. So you could have all your drums on one track if you just actually sample a drum break. And as you see here, I actually have a little amen break chopped up on one track. And then I have this other break that is not yet chopped up, because I want to show you how you can take advantage of the new chop mode that's on here. And this is an upgrade. So if you already have a Lo-Fi 12 from a few months ago, you might not have this mode on here. Definitely check what firmware you have. But with the simple upgrade, they have this new chop mode feature. And you just go to the sample that you're on, go to mode, chop. And the chop actually chops it up in 8 different slices. You don't really get control over the amount of slices or the sensitivity. It's very, very limited. So keep that in mind. You could also use a lot of like old school sampling techniques to where you figure out the length of your drum break and you go and try to adjust the start and end points and you copy it over. You could do that in here. It does take a lot of work. Or you could try a simple hack that I did, which is basically just sampling drum breaks right at 120 BPM. And then you could use, they do have a mode in here when you go back over this drum mode. This drum mode, you could actually set the downbeat. This number represents like where the drum break actually is. You could like move that around and try to find the downbeat and then go into chop mode. And it'll get pretty close. So then once you get there, you could just go and just lay your breaks down on a step. You get the idea. So obviously you're really limited with the Lo-Fi 12, but I mean, that's the point. You can get some really dirty, crunchy, real lo-fi textures with this sampler, and that's something that's kind of really hard to recreate. So if you do want to get a little bit more deep with your samples and do some time stretching, do some time slicing, do some other things, I must suggest the SmplTrek by Sonicware. This is another one of my favorite pieces from Sonicware. This is a little bit more than the Liven series, but it's worth it. This is a 10-track sampling workstation. You could play 3 what they call global tracks, which can be full songs that it just streams right off of the SD card. You can also stream USB audio through this USB input right here. And you could sample from the built-in mic. You could sample from the audio input. The sampling is really cool. It's got auto slicing. Again, you could do time stretching. You could also load up loops into here. And it's got scene launching. So for every track, you could have up to 16 different scenes. And then I mentioned that this is also portable. It's handheld. As a matter of fact, as soon as you get a SmplTrek, the first thing I suggest you do is to pick it up and hold it like a Game Boy, because it's kind of what it's meant to do. You have your directional pad right here. You have OK and clear. And you got these drum pads, which are velocity sensitive. So let me just show you how easy it is to sample in here. Right at the sampling input screen, you could choose the onboard microphone, or you could choose the audio input. I got the bass and beats going in here right now. And it's got auto record on here as well. So let's actually, auto record is on. So as soon as I hit record, it's going to wait for a signal and it's going to start recording. So what's cool about the SmplTrek, like I mentioned earlier, it's got some MPC vibes to it. You could do time slicing, time stretching. It's got auto slicing as well, and the auto slicing is really good. It just knows how to slice and find every transient, so let's just do it. The higher sensitivity you go, the more slices that you get. And bear in mind that even if your sample source is a little bit low, you could set the normalization level for after you sample, and that's what it just did here. So it just kicked this break up a little bit. Let's add a little bit more slices. And of course, you could adjust all those slices at will. But I just kind of wanted to show you how easy it was to slice something up. I actually have this other drum break that I already sliced up in here. Shout out to the Count. This is some Count drums. Cool. And then I just like made this little beat in here. So this is just a combination of that drums and this sample here that I got from Splice. This thing's pretty deep. It's a workstation. So I have up to 16 scenes that I could launch from just one project. So, and it's really easy to copy the clips like you would in Ableton. So like, let's copy this drum clip. And let's put that in scene 2. So now we got scene 2, just drums, and I can go over to my next track, make a new part. Just like I would if I was working with the MPC, which comparatively speaking, this SmplTrek is only about 400 bucks. I think the cheapest MPC right now is like 600 bucks. This compares to the Digitact, to a few other samplers that are out there. You get a lot in this little package that could be handheld, battery powered, and it's pretty deep. So shout out to Sonicware for knocking it out the park with this SmplTrek. I really dig it. So I'm also digging the Bass and Beats Liven. This is strictly a bass and drum beat groove box. It's got a PCM bass drum engine with like over 300 drum sounds. You can't sample into here, but the drum sounds that you get in here are pretty deep, all on their own. So you get lots of basic kits based off of genre, but you also get a lot of control over each drum sound. And then you also have a wavetable synthesizer, a 2-oscillator wavetable synthesizer that you could use for the bass. And that's pretty deep and fun. They were also clever enough to put some ducking into here. So obviously when you make a bass line over top of a drum beat, you might want to add some side chaining or ducking. And there's just one ducking knob here, which is really fun to play with. It automatically has the kick drum inserted. Yeah, so that's really fun. And you could do parameter recording on here. You could do parameter per step sequencing on here. So you could really make the wavetable move how you want to, or just tweak a knob and actually record that how you want to. This thing is really, really deep actually. It actually comes with these 2 overlays to let you know like what you're doing when you're doing it. So if you were actually trying to edit the bass, let's pick a bass sound to edit. That, cool. So now we're in the memory edit mode for the bass memory patch. You would have to put this overlay on, and now you actually know your way around. Changing up the waves. And then when you want to actually edit the drums, I also like that there's a mixer on here. So I can easily turn the bass up, turn the drums down, and then for the line in as well, there's a mix control. So earlier when I was jamming, I had the Lo-Fi 12 going into this line in and just using this to mix. And you could run external audio through the effects as well, which is really handy. So if I wanted to edit these drums, you would go into function and hit kit, and then select the kit that you want to edit. So let's just edit, I don't know, the trap kit. Okay, throw that on. And now I'm actually editing each drum sound. The tuning, slope, like the attack or like the envelope, gets pretty deep. I also dig this Texture Lab Liven. This is one of the newest Livens, or at least newest in terms of my perspective with Sonicware. I saw this at Superproof last year. I was really geeked on it when I saw it last year. And now I got it here, and it's fun to play with. I love granular synthesis, and that's exactly what this is. It's a granular sampler that can play back polyphonically, of course. You have control over your actual sample that you're sampling in here and playing from here. Can't chop or do anything like the Lo-Fi 12. But with the sample, obviously, you could pull grains from that sample and do cool granular stuff. So this is the whole sample. This is just one of the presets I have in here just to kind of show you how cool this is. With these knobs here, you have control over the actual sample itself, and then at the top you have control over the grains that it's getting from the sample. So over here is the blend knob. If you go all the way over to the left, you're not blending the sample with the grains, but the moment that you start turning it, now there's grains, granular stuff happening on top of it. You go all the way to the right. Now I'm just playing back the granular grains that it's pulling from that sample. So real briefly, let's check out some of the granular controls. There's size, which is like your size of your grains, or like the window that it pulls the grains from the sample. The bigger you go, basically the more of the original sample that you're going to hear. The smaller that you go, now you're getting like little micro grains. And that is what's cool about granular to me, because you could take something like
To lose your head, start now and then gently. Heal,
I don't know if that's Chris Lodi or somebody, one of the other designers
to lose
from
your head,
Sonicware.
to lose your head, to lose your.
But let's just explore using a vocal real quick and turning that into something crazy and granular. So let's turn the blend up.
To lose your head, start now and then gently. To lose your head, start now and then gently.
The timing knob switches up the timing of the grain playback. Density controls how many grains are playing like on top of each other.
To lose your head, start now and then gently. To lose your head, to lose.
And the diffusion actually pans the grains like left and right, so you get like some spread.
To lose your head, start now and then gently.
Let's go back down to the sample control and control the sample a little bit more.
To lose your head, start now and then gently. To lose your head, start now and then.
Let's change the position of the playback. Let's actually randomize the playback of the grains, because that gets really cool. So if we go and hold shift and turn this knob here, which was the speed knob, if you see under here, it says DIR for direction. If we turn that, now we're at this screen where we see all these arrows. So these arrows represent the sample playback and the grain playback. So this is like ping pong sample playback, and then the grains are playing in reverse. So let's hear that. Let's try another one. Let's do random, because that's always cool. So now the grains are going to play back in like a random forward and backward. I can sit here and do this all day. I can add a drum beat to that, and there's a way that you could flip some word samples in a way that you probably wouldn't do it with, you know, a normal sampler or just doing normal chops. That's why granular is cool, because you can really just create something else completely different. And then when you get something that you like, you could add a little bit of reverb to it. It's got really good reverb effects in here. Let's just turn that up. It's also got shimmer reverb here. You could also use this, like I was using it earlier, in effects mode, and that takes away, you know, the envelope controls and whatnot. but this allows you to use the Texture Lab as a granular effects processor. And what's cool about the effects mode is you can freeze stuff. Like freeze your grain playback. So you could just freeze anything that you're processing. And play it back on the keyboard itself. So kind of like sampling on the fly, granular sampling on the fly, if you will. Obviously, we can get a lot more deeper than that. I'm just showing you some of the raw characteristics of each one of these wonderful Grooveboxes from Sonicware and why I think they're so cool, and definitely well worth the fact that they're all under $500 and you can get a lot out of each one. So if you all got some Sonicware stuff, I'd love to hear which ones are your favorites, how you are using yours. Maybe you got a SmplTrek, maybe you got SmplTrek packs that you wanna maybe drop in the links in the comments below. Please share, get involved, let me know what's up. I like to learn from you all as well. And be sure to check out Reverb Sonicware shop to order what you see here, plus more, all available at Reverb Sonicware shop right now. Well, that's all I got for y'all today. I'm Fest Grandiose, signing off with Reverb. As always, stay safe and keep creating. Peace.